In this episode, if not for the presence on the bridge of Ensign Walking Bear, a Comanche who also happens to be a student of other indigenous American cultures, the vengeful god the heroes encounter would probably have destroyed the Enterprise right away. Good thing it was Sulu's day off. This is a review of the Star Trek The Animated Series episode, How Sharper Than a Serpent's Tooth. If you have not seen this episode, and you don't want to know how multiple ancient civilizations borrowed their cultures from an alien and all somehow got it wrong, be warned. Spoilers beyond this point. It's another one of those the crew of the Enterprise randomly encounters an old Earth god flying around in outer space shows. Those are always fun. Let's see what happens. As the episode begins, Earth has received a signal from a powerful space probe, and the Enterprise is following the trail left behind by the probe in the hopes of discovering its origin and purpose. Okay, so technically they aren't going to randomly encounter an old god flying around in space. They're following a trail left by a probe. Lucky for me, Star Trek fans aren't known for getting obsessively hung up on minute details. Anyway, they reach the end of the trail and encounter a large, mysterious vessel that stops the Enterprise suddenly in its tracks. Kirk calls Scotty in engineering for a damage report, but everything seems fine. Kirk calls sickbay like, "Bones, casualty report," and McCoy answers, "I think I wet myself a little, but otherwise okay." As the ship approaches, Spock says, "We've been trapped in a giant snow globe, Captain." The mysterious ship reveals itself. It's colorful and somewhat snake-like in appearance. Kirk's like, "Get us out of here! Full power to the engines!" Spock's like, "Did you not hear me just say we're trapped in a giant snow globe? We're not going anywhere." The ship shoots the Enterprise with some kind of energy beam, so Kirk orders that they return fire with phasers. The ship changes its form and is now more than somewhat snake-like in appearance. Ensign Walking Bear, filling in at the helm because Sulu has a dentist appointment, recognizes the ship. It looks like Kukulcon. A voice from the ship says, "Finally! I was just about to kill all you people, but since one person on your ship remembers me, I will give you a chance to live. But if you fail my final test, every one of your kind shall die." Sound like a deal? Kukulcon transports McCoy, Scotty, Walking Bear, and Kirk over to his ship, and they find themselves in the center of what looks like an ancient Earth city. The voice of Kukulcon speaks to them, saying, "Okay, so basically this city is a puzzle. You solve the puzzle, and I will appear before you. You fail to solve the puzzle, and I don't know, I'll probably get bored eventually and just kill you. And go." They look around the city and notice some odd details. There are features that seem to belong to many different cultures. Egyptian statues, a Chinese gateway, and a great big Aztec-looking pyramid in the center of town. Walking Bear tells the myth of how Kukulcon visited the Mayans, told them how to build a city, then left, promising to return when the city was finished, but he never came back. Kirk thinks he has the answer. Kukulcon must have visited several different ancient Earth civilizations and given them all the same instructions for how to build the city, but they all decided to freestyle and only took the pieces of Kukulcon's design that they liked. Since no one ever built the full city to Kukulcon's specifications, he never returned to Earth. They notice 4 columns topped with carvings of Kukulcon's head, one at each corner of the base of the pyramid. They turn all 4 heads to face the pyramid, and reflected sunlight strikes a platform at the top of the pyramid, which activates a thing that does another thing, and yay, they solved the puzzle. Kukulcon appears and says, "Now, was that so hard? I've been waiting centuries for you humans to figure out how to turn some stone heads in the right direction and activate a signal for me to come back, and somehow none of you were ever smart enough to do it. Anyway, here I am now. What are you gonna do? You gonna shoot me? Go on, shoot me! Shoot me if you hate me so much!" Kirk's like, we don't have guns, and why would we shoot you? We don't hate you. We only shot at you with our ship's weapons in self-defense. Kukulcon says, "Well, you're not allowed to do that. I'm your master. If I want to put your ship in a snow globe, that's what I'm going to do." McCoy says, "Hey, Snakeface, we don't belong to you." And Kukulcon says, "Oh yeah? You have forgotten me and strayed from the path I set out for you. It's time for me to remind you who I am." The city vanishes around them, and they find themselves in Kukulcon's galactic zoo, surrounded by exotic creatures in glass cases. Kukulcan's like, what do you think? Huh? Scotty says, I think it's pretty messed up keeping all these animals confined like this. But Kukulcan says it's not messed up because they don't even know they're confined. I'm projecting the illusion of their native habitat into each of their minds. So from their points of view, they're all living safe and peaceful lives where they belong. I tried to teach you humans how to live peacefully, but look what happened to you. You ignored my teachings, forgot about me, turned violent, and you fucked up my city. How hard is it to follow simple instructions? Kirk says, but if you treat us like children who are just supposed to follow your instructions, children is all we'll ever be. Kukulcan is like, yeah, I know. That's what I want. Nice, obedient children who will always need me and never have independent thoughts or personalities of their own. So you're just a more powerful version of that weird, sad lady from Chimp Crazy. Oh, hey, come on now. That was a low blow. I didn't deserve that. While Kukulcan continues kvetching with Captain Kirk, back on the Enterprise, Spock has managed to break out of the giant snow globe by pushing the ship against the wall of the globe while simultaneously pulling at it with a tractor beam. Kukulcan sees that the Enterprise is free and says, that's it, I'm killing everybody. To distract Kukulcan, Kirk frees one of the animals from its enclosure, a creature called a Capellan Power Cat, which is basically a saber-toothed tiger with spikes sticking out of its back that delivers a powerful electric shock to anyone who touches it. The cat starts wrecking shop and advances on Kukulcan, and Kukulcan's like, oh shit, kill it, kill it! Kirk grabs a tranquilizer from McCoy's medical kit and manages to sedate the cat. He absorbs a shock in the process, but he's okay. Kukulcan says, okay, so you subdued the cat without killing it. Is that supposed to impress me? Kirk's like, you have to admit, we're not as inferior to you as you say we are. Kukulcan says, maybe not, but your kind is still violent. McCoy's like, we're working on it. Kirk adds, look man, we have minds of our own. You can't expect us to just automatically do as we're told. It doesn't work like that. Kukulcan says, I just wanted to teach you how to live in peace and build a city by following basic directions. Kirk says, I know. And hey, you helped us out when you visited Earth a long, long time ago. But we've grown up since then. We don't need you anymore. Kukulcan says, okay, I'll let you go. Have a nice life. Back on the Enterprise for the wrap-up, Spock says, isn't it interesting that the being we saw was literally the Mayan god Kukulcan, and a bunch of other ancient gods too? Kirk says, yep, but in reality he wasn't a god at all, just a lonely alien with too much time on his hands. Who knows? Humanity might have benefited from the knowledge he had to share, but he wanted to keep us as children, and that price was just too high. McCoy says, it reminds me of a line from Shakespeare. Kirk cuts him off. I know the one you mean, Bones. How sharper than a serpent's tooth it is to have a thankless child. And McCoy's like, no, actually I was thinking of, oh, serpent heart hid with a flowering face. Because he was a big snake? Go back to sickbay. The end! So, I'm reviewing this episode now because this is the 100th Star Trek retro review I've done, and How Sharper Than a Serpent's Tooth is the 100th episode of Star Trek produced overall. Obviously, the episode wasn't produced with that in mind. I'm sure the creators of it didn't even realize that, or if they did, they didn't care. It's not made to be a milestone episode, and yet it contains certain classic quintessential elements that make it a pretty good 100th episode, a fair representation of at least some of the things that make Star Trek so appealing to so many of us. First and foremost, it's full of random pulp sci-fi weirdness. Earth receives a signal from a space probe that turns out to have been sent by an ancient Mayan god who has spent the last however many centuries in space, flying around in a ship shaped like himself. Yep, that sounds like Star Trek. A seemingly random sampling of the crew, which just so happens to include several main characters, is transported into an unfamiliar environment where they're forced to solve a puzzle and pass a test with the future of humanity on the line. That's a Star Trek. The god turns out to be just a judgmental alien, and humanity is saved when our heroes convince the alien that humanity has evolved beyond its primitive violent nature and deserves to stand on its own. What it is Star Trek. Some of the most memorable Star Trek The Animated Series episodes are the ones that really lean into that oddball quality, whether it's through the plot or the character design or the settings. There are episodes of the animated series that are about nothing but bizarre shit that's just randomly happening to the heroes, and How Sharper Than a Serpent's Tooth seems to be one of those. And it is a lot of fun. If you can't have a good time watching a cranky flying snake torment Captain Kirk for 25 minutes, I don't know what to tell you. But underneath all of this silliness, there's a deeper message that is also as classic Trek as it gets. Star Trek's attitude toward religion has always been complex. The shiny utopian future the show depicts is secular and oriented towards science and reason. Institutionalized religion seems to have little influence, but personal faith is acknowledged and respected. We see glimpses of that complex attitude in this episode. Kukulcon is a god who is angry that his people, his children, have grown beyond their need for him. When those people assert their independence from him, the god reacts threateningly, as gods often do in mythology, and as religious institutions often do in real life when they feel their power being challenged and their role in society being diminished. The resolution of the episode comes when Kirk and the others manage to convince the god that he is no longer needed, but that his past contributions to human culture are still appreciated. The message isn't so much anti-religion as it is an argument for keeping religion in its proper place. Should we respect it as a part of human history and culture? Of course. Should we let it determine our future? No, probably not. Captain Kirk expresses gratitude to Kukulcon, to the kind of religious belief he represents, but also makes it clear that his guidance is no longer necessary or wanted. And Kukulcon accepts that. What an optimistic fantasy. You can also read the story of this episode as representing parents and children. When the kids get old enough, they need to stand on their own, make their own decisions, learn from their own mistakes, and their parents need to give them space to do that, instead of constantly hovering and correcting and trying to force them to fit some predetermined mold. This reading is particularly interesting when you consider that this is Star Trek the Animated Series, which was produced and distributed as a children's cartoon show. Pretty wild to think that in the mid-1970s, there was a goofy sci-fi action-adventure cartoon that was telling its young target audience to reject religion and challenge the authority of their parents. On top of all that, this episode features the character of Ensign Walking Bear, the first Enterprise crew member of Native American ancestry, whose recognition of Kukulcon and knowledge of indigenous cultures is crucial to the success of the heroes, exemplifying another core value of Star Trek, the belief in the strength that comes from diversity and multiculturalism. Walking Bear isn't voiced by a Native American actor. James Doohan jumped in and played Walking Bear, as he often did with guest characters on the animated series, but Russell Bates, who co-wrote the episode with David Wise, was Native American of the Kiowa tribe. When Star Trek the Animated Series won the Emmy Award for Best Children's Series in 1975, this was the episode the producers had submitted for consideration. It was the first Emmy Award ever won by a Star Trek show, and as of this recording, it's still the only time a Star Trek show has won an Emmy for Best Series. Not too bad. In many ways, Star Trek the Animated Series is typical of other Saturday morning cartoon shows being produced at the time. It's cheap, it's fairly crude, especially by today's standards, but it's mostly fine, an entertaining and endearing addition to the franchise. Every so often, though, it overachieves and reminds you that underneath that humble surface, it's Star Trek through and through. Those are my thoughts on How Sharper Than a Serpent's Tooth. What do you think of this episode? Please share your thoughts with me in the comments. If you'd like to support this channel, and I sure wish you would if you can afford it, you can do so by becoming a patron at patreon.com/Steve Shives, becoming a channel member by clicking the join button, or by making a one-time gift by clicking the thanks button, or via PayPal or Venmo. Links are in the description. To those of you who are kind enough to watch these reviews as they're posted, I will be taking a 2-week break from the retro reviews since it's December and the holidays are upon us. But on January 2nd, I will be back here with the first of a brand new batch of reviews. The theme of the first batch of 2025 will be the augments, those genetically engineered pains in the ass. And the first episode in this 4-episode batch will be the first appearance of the augments, although that's not what they were called yet. I'll be reviewing the classic Star Trek episode, Space Seed. That's next year. See you then. Thanks for watching, and take care, everybody.